Real quick, if you want to learn more about macronutrients and understand that methodology on how they can help you achieve your body composition goals of changing the way your body looks, I put together a free 15-minute training where I dive into macronutrients and how you can control your body for the rest of your life with them. That link is in the description below. Click on it after listening to the show today. Nutrition is one of the hardest things for people to grasp and understand. It is also one of the important things in order to facilitate the type of results that you want to see with your body. I say nutrition is king, exercise is queen all of the time. You cannot outwork a bad diet. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Macro Hour with Nikki Stott, co-founder of WarriorBabe. And on this podcast, we talk about mindset, methodologies, and tactics that will help you lose body fat, build muscle, be strong, and feel insanely confident. I am your host, Nikki Stott, and welcome to episode 101. Guys, we are back. And what I mean by back, maybe this is the first episode that you guys are chiming into, but for those of you guys that listen to all of the 100 other episodes, I took a little bit of a break after releasing that 100th episode. I honestly just need to be revived and also have the time and energy to dive back into recording the podcast. So it was a nice needed break. However, I am back and I am excited to be back. We have held to you guys in the interim with these 3-4 weeks that I have paused the podcast. We've still held top 20. We were holding top 10 for a while, but we're still holding top 20 podcasts in the United States within fitness. So, man, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate the love that you guys give this podcast. I've received so many DMs. This will be the last thing I say, then we'll dive into the episode. But I received so many DMs of like, I miss the podcast. I love the podcast when it's coming back. So, guys, I feel that love, and we are back. And we have a lot of dope episodes lined up for you guys. A lot of cool guests that are going to be coming on the podcast. So, I'm back, and we're back with even more to bring to you guys, more positive impact, more tips, more tricks, all of the things that will help you guys, I hope, along your journey. And remember, anything that you guys learn from this podcast, man, please put it into action, okay? Nothing that you want to accomplish within the results that you're seeking is going to happen unless you have action behind it, right? You can listen to this podcast till you're blue in the ear. You can listen to all the tips, tricks, and motivation that I give you guys, but like without the action point, you're never going to reach the results and the goals that you want, all right? Cool. So with that being said, let's dive into today's podcast. Today's podcast is going to be all about macros. All about macros, baby. I mean, that's what the podcast name is, Macro Hour. So let's just dive in all macros related. And this was inspired by, I take Maverick. If you guys don't know who Maverick is, he's my Doberman, almost 3-year-old puppy. And I take him to the dog park every single afternoon. And when I'm there, I always somehow get on topic of nutrition, fitness, talking to the women that are there. The women are so sweet. They're like 45 to 50 to 55 years old. Some of them are a little bit younger, but mainly that group of pocket of women. I'm like, damn, this is who I speak to on a daily basis. So cool, let's rock and roll on all of the things that you guys have questions about. And whenever I bring up the fact that WarriorBabe is a macronutrient-based company, all of the responses that the women have to say is, I have no idea what macronutrients are. I'm like, yeah, I know. I get that. I hear that all of the time. So I just want to bring more awareness to what macronutrients are in this podcast today. I want to touch base on if you are a beginner in macronutrients, where do you even start with trying to incorporate that kind of concept into your everyday routine, and just driving out on macros with you guys here today. Okay. What I first want to talk about and dive into is calories versus macronutrients. I've talked about this in an earlier podcast. There's a big difference in, the overall, when you're aiming to have a goal in a day. A lot of women used to focus on, I just need to hit a calorie number, right? Like a lot of women used to just focus on, I count my calories. I eat 1,800 calories. I eat 2,000 calories in a day. A lot of women that I speak to don't even know what they're eating in a day. And they're usually typically, once I bring into awareness the first step, which I'll talk about in a minute, of how to just start incorporating the stuff into your everyday routine. Women are eating 1,000 calories to 1,100 calories. So it's like, calories is a big thing, right? A lot of people know what calories are. They make up each food item that you eat. However, when you break down what those calories are made up of, that's where you get down into the macronutrients, right? So every single food item that you have contains calories, whether it's 200 calories, 450 calories, 800 calories, 100 calories. That is the overarching like the energy, right? Calorie is a unit of energy. So that's overall the energy of what's in that food. And then when you dive a little bit further, the macronutrients make up those calories. So if you look at the food label, you see total fat, total carbs, total protein that is made up, that consists of making up the overall calorie count of that food item. So the foods that you eat, whether it be pizza, whether it be eggs, whether it be a salad, whether it be like a turkey club, whether it be, whatever it is that you're eating on a daily basis, a bagel, that breaks, the calories are the calories that you see big, bold on the nutrition label, but then that breaks down into, okay, this food item is made up of fats, carbs, and protein. And that's what macronutrients are. Total fats, total carbs, total protein. So when you see the calorie number, let's say 200, and then you have, and dude, I am not the best at quick math. So like you have 5 grams of fat, you have 20 grams of carbs, and you have like 8 grams of protein. Just, that's not going to equate to 200 calories, but just stick with me here. Then you times, because every macronutrient, so total fats are made up of 9 calories per gram. So there's 5 grams of fat inside of whatever food item it is, times that by 9, and then you get 40 grams. I'm so bad at quick math, but you get what I'm saying, right? I think that's actually 45. That's how many calories are made up from fat in that food item, okay? And then you do that for carbs. So I use 20 grams of carbs in the food item as an example. You times that by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram in each of in that food item. So you times that by 20 by 4, and then 80 calories are coming from carbohydrates in that food item. And then with the protein, I'm trying to get ahead of my math here so that I feel confident with my math, but I'm just telling you guys for the sake of the podcast and me spitballing this, I am so bad. So please, like, don't hold me to the quick math. And then for the protein, I use 8 grams, right? So then protein is also 4 calories per gram. So you times 8 by 4, and that's 32 calories are being made up from that food item coming from protein. Okay, so like you see how you were diving just a little bit deeper past the calorie thing. And in an earlier podcast, I shared why like tracking macronutrients is a little bit more of an accurate measure when you're paying attention to the food that you're eating than calories. Because when you're just focusing on, okay, I'm going to eat 1,800 calories in a day or 2,000 calories in a day, those calories could be made up of little protein, majority carbs, and like moderate fats, right? And then you're wondering why you could be holding on to fat the next day or carbs or water weight, I should say, the next day. And that's probably because you had a little bit more carbs than you should have in the day, right? And this is very micro. But if you're doing that over a consistent period of time, you could be holding on to tons of water weight and not necessarily fat. And it's just because you're eating a shit ton of carbs, right? So when you dial it down to macronutrients, you're setting a target of, okay, X amount of my calories are coming from protein, X amount of my calories are coming from carbs, X amount of my calories are coming from fats. And so it's a little bit more of a balanced equation for your body to receive ultimate results when you're honing in and dialing in a bit more when it comes to macronutrients, right? Because, the main thing that I see too as well when people are just focusing on calories is they're not getting enough protein. A lot of women that I teach, speak to, that are inside of WarriorBabe when they're first joining is like their protein numbers are almost like 0. And they try and focus on like getting protein bars. I only have like 8 grams of protein when like you need to be eating your body weight in protein. So when like you're just focusing on calories, and you're, putting together meals, like majority of people know how to eat carbs and fats. But like to be able to get lean protein in when it's just the protein source and it's not coming from carbs and fats is actually pretty hard for people to do. And you also have to put time and effort into it because you have to prep those proteins and cook those proteins ahead of time if you want to be dialed in a little bit there, right? So just to touch a little bit more like on calories and proteins, like when you focus on just calories and eating less than you burn throughout the day, then yes, you are definitely going to lose weight. But the quality, like what I like to say when people focus on calories and macros, the quality of you reaching any specific goal that you have in mind for yourself, whether when it's like building more muscle and getting more lean and showing more lean definition and having like the tone pop out, will suffer if you're just paying attention to calories and you're not paying attention and dialing in the macronutrients, right? So a lot of women that I speak to is like, they want to be toned, they want to build more muscle, they want to have an athletic figure. However, they're focusing on a 2,000 calorie diet that is mainly made up of carbs and fats and not enough protein, where protein is a king of macronutrients to build more muscle, to preserve lean muscle, right, as you're decreasing body fat. And so that's what I mean by like, if you want that goal, but you're not paying attention to how much protein you're eating or the macronutrients back behind the meals that you're having, then that goal is going to suffer. And it's going to take you a longer time to get to that goal if you're not dialing it in a little bit more. And like, you don't have to dial it into all three macronutrients at the start. I'm going to explain that in a second, but you still need to dial it in understanding that the calories that you're eating and the macros that you are consuming, right? Like one of them is just a overarching, this is all of the food I had in a day. And then the macros are just you're diving in a bit deeper and you're focusing on, okay, all of the calories, this is where my protein, how much protein, calories are coming from protein, how many calories are coming from carbs, and how many calories are coming from fats. And that's how you can totally achieve weight loss. And I've talked about this in early podcasts, the difference between weight loss and fat loss. You can totally achieve weight loss by just focusing on calories. However, the majority of women that I speak to, and you guys listening to this podcast, want more muscle, want more tone, want more definition. You need to dial it in and take it to that next level, like I've spoken to in an earlier podcast too as well, by tracking macronutrients. And I don't want to send like a daunting vibe of like, oh my God, now I need to get off this podcast and learn what macronutrients are, or I need to like start tracking my protein, fats, and carbs. Where do I even start? I'm going to get there in a second. And like I said a second ago, you don't need to be tracking all three of those carbohydrates. You can just focus on one of them, and that being protein. I'm going to share with that in a second. Okay. Another thing with calories and proteins is understanding that food is your fuel, okay? So to operate effectively and efficiently, your body needs proper amount of good fuel to reach your maximum potential. So earlier I mentioned how like a shit ton of different things can make up calories, right? The quality of the food that's coming to help you reach that calorie number may suffer when you're trying to reach a certain number and you're just focused on a certain number. Whereas when you're focusing on like, okay, I need to eat good quality food, like good sources of protein and not artificial, and wholesome carbohydrates and not just like tons of simple carbs, and healthy fats, not just like shit fats, you're going to operate your body. Think of your body as a machine. Okay. And like the food you put into it is like the gas, like the 89, 9, like something, and 91, 93, like the supreme or the basic. Okay. Macronutrients is helping you get to like the more supreme of the food, because you're focused on the quality of the food that you're eating and not just like trying to hit a number like calories. That's why I love macronutrients, for the fact that it just helps you focus on a different level of food that you're eating on a regular basis. Okay. So your body, to start to shift into each macronutrient, your body needs each macronutrient. Your body needs the precise amount of energy from each macronutrient in order to fuel the optimal results that you want, in order to fuel the workouts, in order to repair muscle damage, in order to get stronger, in order to shed body fat. Okay, so if you want to reach ultimate success, then like I said earlier, if you just want to lose weight, you can totally just focus on calories. Calories will do that, but it's not enough to attain the goals that majority of you guys I know want. And that's counting macros, because counting macros is going to help you decrease body fat. It's going to help you preserve, meaning hold on to, right? When people go and just lose weight, they lose everything. They lose the fat, they lose the water, the organ sizes get smaller, and they lose muscle. However, if you want to decrease body fat, you eat macronutrients, protein will help you to preserve that lean muscle mass, meaning hold on to that lean muscle mass as you're decreasing body fat around the muscle. That is how you get more defined. That's how you get more tone. That's how you show more muscle. Okay. And it's also going to help you build your muscle. It's also going to just have macronutrients will help you have way more freaking energy because of the quality of food that the food sources are coming from. All right. Now, with that being said, I want to dive into, okay, you guys have probably heard like IIFYM, if it fits your macros. Okay, you can have your cookie and you can still lose fat as long as it fits your macros. However, I need to emphasize that it's not just if it fits your macros and you can eat whatever the you want to eat, meaning you can have cookies all day long and you can have popcorn all day long and you can have chips all day long and you have margaritas because it fits into your macros. No. 80% to like 85% of your food should be wholesome quality whole foods, meaning like chicken, vegetables, brown rice, salmon, egg whites, Seitan if you're vegan, legumes, like all of like wholesome foods that you're buying from like around the grocery store, the outside the grocery store, not in the aisles. Okay. And then like 10% should be coming from like, cool, you want to have chocolate in the night like I do? I have 4 pieces every single night. Sweet. Fits into my macros. You want a cookie one night? Sweet. Fits into your macros. Right. That's what I mean by like, and that's what like I need to emphasize, because there's a lot of people that preach it for fake macros and literally say that if it fits your macros, and then they allow burgers and pizza and like all this stuff. That stuff's chill and cool, but like 10 to 15% of your day. Okay. So that, and then that's where that really helps you to not lose your mind, right? Like you don't have to be restrictive. You don't have to cut out things that you don't love. You don't have to get rid of the items that you enjoy, as long as, you're having control and discipline, that you're not eating that all of the time, all throughout your day. All right. That's where this process can be really enjoyable. You have to build that discipline for yourself. Okay. So I want to talk about, my macronutrients, right? When I talk to these women at the dog park, they're like, what are macronutrients? And what they are, as I already touched on lightly, are protein, fats, and carbs. But what I really want to dive into for the sake of this podcast a little bit here is talking to each one and why they are so important. Mainly because there are things out there that eliminate one of the key macronutrients. And you guys know what that is: carbohydrates. And carbohydrates get this like daunting, life-ending enemy vibe. However, if your goal is to build muscle and decrease body fat and achieve like an athletic figure and have fuel and stamina through your performance of your workouts, you need carbohydrates to that micro. But to the macro, for a sustainable lifestyle that keeps every single macronutrient in, and that you can enjoy these macronutrients all throughout your life, and like you have one thing that you're just like, you don't have to worry about dieting ever again, you need to keep carbohydrates in. Okay. I remember, sorry rant, but I remember being at a conference like in 2018, and I was sitting next to this woman who was overweight, and we got to talking about like what I was doing, like what's my occupation, what's my job. And then we got to talking about what her occupation, her job is. And I talked about fitness, and I talked about health, and I talked about working out, and I talked about eating right. And she's like, oh yeah, like I just started keto a couple days ago. And I was like, oh, cool. How long have you been in ketosis? And she's like, oh, well, I had carbs last night. I'm like, see, like this thing. And then that probably will lead into deeper, like, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I'm defeated, blah, 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 to that woman. Like I didn't get to that level with her, but like, I can only imagine that that's happens in so many people that like start keto. And then all of a sudden a week later, they're having drinks and margaritas with their friends. And they're like, damn, I can't stick to actually doing something. You can't stick to actually doing something because it's not realistic. I just need to say that. And like, you shouldn't be beating yourself up over something that is not realistic and will not help you to maintain healthy habits for a sustainable period of time. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about each macronutrient, right? Like, so I shared earlier that macronutrients are protein, fats, and carbs. But like, why are they important for you and how do they benefit you is what I want to touch on here for a little bit. So, and then stay with me, because at the end, I'm going to just briefly touch on like ways that you can start incorporating this type of concept into your everyday routine. But you don't have to like dive full in and be like, oh my God, tomorrow I need to track all my protein, fats, and carbs. There's like a stepping stool to this process for yourself, okay? Especially if you're a beginner. But the benefits of protein. So first and foremost, the benefits at a macro level of protein are so important for your body because they're like I call the macronutrient protein, the macronutrient god, like the king of the macronutrients, because it's the building block of the body. It is so important for like structure, the maintaining and the repairing of like your muscle tissue, of your cartilage, of your skin, of your organs, of your bone. So many important structures of the overall body. And it also helps to build a very, very strong immune system. Now, that's at a macro level, right? But on a micro level, for your goals of building muscle and decreasing body fat and having more definition and showing more muscle tone, protein is so important because it preserves that lean muscle mass, and it helps you to feel fuller longer so you can eliminate cravings throughout the day, wanting to eat your face off at the end of the night. And it also keeps your glucose, aka your like energy or blood sugar levels, neutralized throughout the day. So touching on the benefits of how it diminishes food cravings. So as I just touched on, like it helps your blood pressure levels stay at bay rather than spiking them periodically throughout the day, which, you know, like a lot of people that just eat carbohydrates and snack on things all day are constantly spiking their blood sugar levels. And when you are, you know, when you're constantly spiking your blood sugar levels, this is coming from you wanting and having all of these cravings, right? And so when you, at the end of the day, have those consistent spikes throughout the day because you're not prioritizing protein, you'll feel very hungry at the end of the day. Or maybe you have a meal and it's heavy in carbs and fats, but you'll still feel hungry afterwards because two things here. Protein helps to diminish food cravings. So like if you have protein all throughout your day, the less likely of you having cravings at the end of the day is drastically huge. And then also, when you are having protein all throughout your day, you're feeling fuller longer. So like you get done a meal and you're feeling satisfied, not feeling like, oh my God, I'm still hungry, right? So protein really helps in that aspect. And then more importantly, or even maybe like equally important, protein helps so when you are working out in the gym, I always say you're breaking down muscle, and then the 24 to 48 hours after a workout, you're building the muscle, right? Depending on what you eat. If you are eating the right amount of protein for what your body needs, typically it's your body weight, or if you're cutting calories a little bit and you're decreasing body fat, you want a little bit more protein to hold on to the muscle so your body doesn't tap into the muscle mass for energy. It goes to other sources for energy, like your body fat to burn away, right? So if outside the gym, those 24 to 48 hours, making sure that you're eating enough protein is so important because it is starting the repair process of the muscles that you just broken down, but it's also helping to, as you're maybe in a little bit of a deficit, hold on to any type of muscle mass so your body doesn't tap into it for energy. I could go way deeper in talking about, I just want you guys to understand the benefits of the macronutrients and why they're so important, both at a macro level and micro level, towards the goals of building more muscle, right? And having more muscle to your body. Hey guys, love so much that you guys are listening to this podcast. If you ever want to have the video version of this, which usually has more effects and all that good stuff for those of you who are visual learners, check out our YouTube channel, WarriorBabe, if that's what you like. Either way, keep enjoying the show. So with all that being said, that sums up the macronutrient protein. Now I want to dive into the macronutrient of carbohydrates. And I like to refer to this macronutrient as the macronutrient of fuel. So at a macro level, carbohydrates not only provide your body with fuel, but they provide your brain with fuel and energy. They fuel your heart, they fuel your kidneys, they fuel your muscles, they fuel your central nervous system. They provide energy and regulation to your glucose in your body, which is your primary energy source. They're just so extremely important for overall fuel of your entire body at a macro level, right? Into big organs and down to the cells. This macronutrient should never be eliminated for this sole purpose. Okay, think about that. energy to the brain, energy to the heart, energy to the kidneys, energy to these organs and overall the cells of your body. Huge macronutrient. Now, that's on a macro level. Diving down into like the micro level for why they're important to the goals that you want to accomplish in terms of building more muscle, decreasing body fat, being more toned, showing more definition, all of that jazz. I'm going to say why they're important, but for a second here, I want to focus on like these 3 things which you can experience if you do not have carbohydrates. You can experience fogginess, you could experience forgetfulness, and you could experience fatigue. So carbohydrates, in those 3 things, the main thing is energy, okay? They provide you the ultimate fuel that you need from your day-to-day activities down to the performance of your workouts and how you're showing up basically in those workouts. Are you fueled or are you not fueled? Do you have energy or do you not have energy? Did you miss carbs? Then you're not going to have energy. Do you have carbs? Then you're going to have energy. Did you miss carbs? You're probably going to be a little bit weaker in your strength of your workouts. Do you have carbs? You're probably going to be a hell of a lot stronger in your performance of your workouts, right? So micro, macro, energy, fuel, right? You being focused, you being at a performance level that you want to be in, especially to build muscle. Those are all so important when it comes to carbohydrates, you having carbohydrates in your body, okay? Main thing, right? What I want to dive into secondly here, why carbs are so important, is because protein needs carbohydrates to work, okay? Stay with me here because I may get a little bit sciencey. I'm trying to stay super, super high level. But in order for you guys to understand this so you apply it, I need to break it down like this. Protein needs carbohydrates to work. So starving your body of carbohydrates during and after workouts of intense exercise, this will likely cause your body to use protein as an energy source. So in severe cases of you having low carbohydrates for prolonged periods of time, this may even result in the breakdown of hard-earned muscle to be used to fuel your workouts, right? So starving your body of carbohydrates, meaning if you're doing like keto, you're doing intermittent fasting, and you're working out fasted, during and after long periods of intense exercise, is going to cause your body to use protein as an energy source, meaning that this is going to have your body tap into hard-earned muscle, because muscle is active tissue, to provide your body fuel throughout your workouts and give you energy pre and post workout, right? If you're not giving your body the fuel that it needs, it's going to go find fuel elsewhere. And so the protein that's being meant to be used to build muscle, to repair muscle, to preserve muscle, is instead being used and absorbed by the body because you're not giving the body the energy source that it wants and needs. Now, some of you guys are also like, well, your body could tap into fat. Sure, it totally could tap into fat, but you do not want it to tap into protein, because then it's basically counteracting what you want to be done in terms of the results and what protein does for the body from the benefit level macro of the building blocks of cartilage, bones, muscles, tissue, all that stuff, but down to the building blocks of building the muscle and repairing the muscle. Protein needs carbohydrates to work, right? So you need carbohydrates so that protein works efficiently and effectively, is basically how I'm going into that statement, trying to explain that statement. If you don't have carbohydrates, your body's going to source protein and get after protein when protein should be being utilized for energy, when protein should be utilized and can be made way more effectively utilized in other aspects of the body, repair, building, X, Y, and Z, and shouldn't be used for that, right? So you want to make sure that you have carbohydrates in the mix so that your protein can just do its job the way it wants to do its job. And it doesn't need to do the job of both protein and carbohydrates. You get what I'm saying? Right? I told you guys to stay with me, so I hope you did. All right. Then Another thing that carbohydrates are very important for is that it restores energy. So not only gives you fuel, but it also restores fuel. So when you train hard or you reduce your blood sugar levels considerably, right? When you go in and you're working out, your body's getting after carbohydrates and that as an energy source to fuel your performance. And when you do that and you're pushing hard and you're training hard, your blood sugar levels are dropping. So eating carbohydrates straight after a training session provides your body with that insulin spike, and that insulin spike puts your body in an anabolic muscle building state. And if you do not get that right afterwards, then you're going to enter a catabolic state, where it's a muscle breakdown state, which goes back into what I just talked about. Try not to get too sciencey here with you guys, but what I just talked about, when you don't have carbohydrates, what it's going to do. And that's why post-workout is so important. From the muscle building aspect of what I said, 24 to 48 hours after you work out, you're building the muscle. You're working to give your body the results that you want there by what you eat. And so it's so important to follow up with a post-workout protein shake with like a banana or something that is, I'm not going to dive into simple and complex carbohydrates because that can be found in another episode of the podcast, which is actually a very beneficial podcast. So I highly recommend you search through the pods and look for that one, because you'll know what exactly to be eating pre and post workout. But that's why carbohydrates are then so important too as well, because they're restoring the depletion of what you just did during your workout. They're restoring that, and they're providing the body with the energy that it needs for the rest of the day, but also providing the muscles what it needs in order to be repaired, growth, all of the things that you want to experience with the results that you want to have, right? Okay. So that's a little bit about carbohydrates. And let's dive into a little bit about fats. And I'm probably going to keep this one a little bit short because fats they're important. They are so important. But in the world of building muscle, and you know what? I shouldn't even say that. They are so important. They're a huge, important factor to your hormones. And when your hormones are optimally functioning in the right capacity, in a good capacity, in a strong capacity, then building muscle is going to be easier for you to be doing. So high level view on fats, they're extremely important for your overall health. So they insulate us, they protect our organs, they act as messengers, they help proteins do their jobs. They start chemical reactions that help control the growth, the immune function, the reproduction, other aspects of basic metabolism functions. They're also very important for your hormones. That's why, you've heard me say in previous podcasts that women going through menopause are experiencing all of these shifts in their hormones. I will always place them with higher fat macros, so that the fats can do the job in aiding with this support while this transition is happening. The micro level of fats in our world of muscle and building muscle is that fats produce muscle strength when training, because it supports hormone balance and recovery from training. So with fats included in your everyday nutrition, right? Especially in like a cutting phase or cutting with your calories. And I talked about this in other podcasts too, as well as all the different phases, but fats can elevate natural growth hormones, which inhibit muscle breakdown and promote muscle gains, right? So fats are very important. I don't want to get away from what I just said earlier that they're not, they are. In respect to, especially with hormones, especially with like the act of making everything a little bit stronger with hormone balance and recovery from training. So more benefits of fats at a higher level. Once you give your body more of what it wants, it learns to use this fuel more effectively, right? So like a lot of people worry that fats are going to make you fat. That is not true. Fats are not going to make you fat. If your diet isn't rich in healthy fats, many of the good for you vitamins and minerals that you're taking in via the other macronutrients will pass right through your system. So in other words, for example, eating fat will help your food become more nutritious, which will help your body perform at its highest level. Fats enrich like everything. That's why I like to look at it. It's actually a really good way of looking at it. They enrich your body, they enrich your hormones, they enrich the muscle building process, they enrich growth hormone, all of the things, okay? So, and they make proteins do their job and they support carbohydrates. That's why I love the trio of the 3 macronutrients and making sure that you get a nice balance of the 3 because they all serve a purpose together. They all work together, and sometimes one can't work effectively if it doesn't have another one, right? So, and then one more thing to touch on fats. It's extremely supportive to your joints, okay? I think overall, it's just a supportive, enriched macronutrient to the body. But one thing to the hormone balance, women cannot have proper hormonal balance without adequate amounts of fats, right? So healthy fat is the raw material that we need to produce and maintain proper hormone function. A lot of people have tried low diet fats or fats that, or limiting their fats. And I can tell you from personal experience, when I did this in bodybuilding, a lot of my internal systems shut down. I started to lose hair. My nails got way too fragile. I wasn't able to poop one time. I shared that in the previous podcast too as well. And that all right there is hormone and balancing the hormones and making sure your hormones are strong so that they can facilitate other things. And I know I mentioned earlier that protein helps to do the things, but because I wasn't getting my body enough fats, protein couldn't do its job. So it's all so important. They're all so entwined. I hope you stayed with me for a little bit there. I got a little sciencey, but high level, they all, like I just said, they all need to work together in order to perform the job that they are responsible of doing internally for your body at a macro level and at a micro level in terms of the goals that you want to accomplish. Macronutrients, all 3 of them are so very important. So now one thing that I want to touch on is okay, cool, Nikki, I learned what macronutrients are, protein, fats, and carbs. I understand it from a calorie level that they break down into these, these 3 things make up the calorie number. And when I have a balanced approach to these macronutrients on a day-to-day basis, then I'm more in line to the goals that I want to accomplish of decreasing body fat, building more muscle, having more muscle definition, showing a more athletic figure, right? Okay, so where do you start if you're a beginner? Because as I mentioned, I'm you don't need to dive in and track all 3 of these macronutrients. I don't expect you tomorrow to cold turkey cut it and go okay, I need to download this app and start tracking my macronutrients. I don't expect you to do that. This is the way that we approach it with every single woman that comes into WarriorBabe. You get an onboarding call with one of our coaches. In that onboarding call, you are discussing basically where you're at in your level of understanding nutrition. And I will tell you that majority of the women that come to us, first of all, have no idea what macronutrients are. Second of all, have no idea what they're eating or how much they're eating in a day. And third of all, have no idea what macronutrients are made up in what types of different foods, right? People don't know how to find proteins. Where do I find proteins? What's made up? What is the carbohydrate? What does this food consist of, right? And I guarantee that's probably majority of you guys listen to this podcast. So once we have that initial understanding that this person nutrition is one of the hardest things for people to grasp and understand. It is also one of the important things in order to facilitate the type of results that you want to see with your body, right? So I say nutrition is king, exercise is queen all of the time. You cannot outwork a bad diet. You cannot go into the gym and expect to see incredible results if you're eating like shit. So, okay, we have this awareness, right? I see this human on the other end of the computer. We do an onboarding call through Zoom, and I'm getting to know this human at this level of understanding that this person does not know anything about macronutrients. Following that, I personally, as a coach, or our coaches on the team, need to understand, what is this person eating? Because if we were to give you 1,500 calories following a week of being with us, however, you're only eating 1 meal a day, that may shock your metabolism. And you may gain weight by doing that because your body is only used to eating once a day, which a lot of people do. They only eat breakfast, or they skip breakfast and they wait all the way until the end of the day and they're starving and they have a massive dinner. That will probably only equate to 1,000 calories or 1,100 calories. So what we make our clients do is in the first week of being with us, we have them track inside of MyFitnessPal or keep like a food diary or food log of some sort, letting us know the habits that you're doing right now. Like, we don't ask them to eat differently. We don't ask them to choose different foods. We just want to gain a general understanding of how you are eating right now, right? So we have the client either track or write down a food diary, meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, this is what I ate, and then they hand that in to the coach. When we get that, we have a better understanding of where this person is at because we can kind of tally out ballpark, okay, this is the input of calories this person's eating on a regular basis. It's usually very low, where we know as coaches that you need to be eating to be able to fuel certain processes to be happening. So from there, it's like, okay, we have a better understanding here. This is where we're going to start. But the first macronutrient that we always have because 90% of the time, people are not eating enough protein. So that's always typically the first protein. Like, you could nix these 2 steps, right? And like go and try this yourself. Or if you want some help, then you can check out WarriorBabe.com. It's in the description below. You can apply for the program to see if you're a good fit. But if you want to nix it and try it yourself, go and just start eating more protein. That's the only thing I would ask you to do. And I would personally have our clients try and at least hit a target number of protein in a day. Not even worrying about the fats and the carbs. The fats and the carbs do not matter at this point. What protein are you eating on a daily basis? And making sure you're hitting like a target number, whether it be a little less than your body weight, whether it be at your body weight, whether it be a little bit more than your body weight. I don't care. You just need to get protein in because you're not doing that right now. If there's one thing that's a supportive habit that we can shift, it's making sure that you're getting enough protein on a regular basis. So that's basically like this 3-step thing, right? Then they start focusing on protein and it's an absolute game changer. All of the positive effects, the positive changes, the positive experiences that follow eating more protein is huge. I see this in about 90% of our clients. They are feeling better, looking better, sleeping better, feeling stronger, having less cravings, feeling more satiated throughout the day. And right there, that's an immediate change. Okay, so that's something that you can definitely expect to see by just eating more protein. Protein comes from chicken, ground turkey, ground beef, egg whites, whole eggs, yogurt, Greek yogurt. There's protein powders, there's protein bars, but making sure that you're having wholesome foods. Those are artificial, so you want to make sure that your 80% of your day is coming from the wholesome foods. Legumes, beans, there's the sea-in if you're vegan, there's fish, there's salmon, there's tilapia, there's cod, there's so many things that make a protein. And what I did at the beginning of my journey when I didn't have a coach is I just Googled, what are protein sources and where can I find them? Okay. So if you want to do this by yourself, these are some things that I would recommend that you do. That's kind of like the stepping stool that I'm saying that you should do, right? First, just becoming aware that obviously you want to make the change, okay? The second one is that we need to understand exactly where you are at. So it's like becoming aware of what you are eating in a week's worth of time, not trying to change any habits, being honest and real with yourself. And then from there, okay, I'm clearly not getting enough protein in my day-to-day. I need to figure out how to get more protein in my day-to-day. That's the only thing that I want to start targeting of all of the 3 macronutrients is more protein. So I'm going to start eating more protein. And you go and do that. And then once you get a grip on that and instilling that new habit, then we can start phasing in protein and fats. But I always say, like, to all of the new clients or our coaches say to new clients, like, until we get this down with eating more protein, carbs and fats may not come for another. Like, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. I myself, our coaches aren't going to physically show up to your house and shove protein down your throat. You got to do the work. You got to eat the protein. Okay. So, and then we can start phasing in fats and carbs. But until you do that, we're looking at like 4 weeks of 5 weeks of your body adjusting to the protein. And so that's why I like to say at the start of WarriorBabe, it's like, this is hard. Point blank. Like, I'm not selling you a false Promise, I'm not selling you a quick fix. Like, I want you to have better habits than what you have right now, so that you can experience the results that you want, and not only experience them right now, but be able to sustain them for the long term. Okay? So for the sake of that entire podcast, you guys, rambled a little bit throughout, but I'm so happy to be back with you guys. I'm so happy to be jamming on the podcast again. But as we talked about, what are macros? We dove into the 3 of them, why they're beneficial from a macro level for your overall whole system of the body, from the organs to the cells, down to the micro of like, this is the goal that you want to accomplish. This is why macronutrients, each one of these, are so important for that particular goal that you want to accomplish. We talked at the beginning a little bit about calories and macronutrients and the difference between them. And then at the end, this 3-step system to help you be able, or this like stepping stool system to help you be able to start phasing in the world of macronutrients. It doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to feel overwhelming. It doesn't have to feel like a lot of time. First of all, you may experience those things come up, or those excuses come up, or those like, I don't want to do this. This takes too much, or this is too hard, or I don't know where to do this. Of course it is. You've never done it before. You've never put this much focus on you eating right. So of course it's going to be different. It's going to be hard. It's going to take you a little bit of time. Accept it. If you want to feel better, look better, be healthier, then be willing to put in this type of work. All right? Love you guys. I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out. Hey guys, real quick. If you're interested in taking your body to the next level, lose body fat, build more muscle, feel more confident, do it alongside one of our 30+ professional coaches. Work one-on-one with her to eliminate all of the guesswork that you may have, and all you need to do is just do the work that she tells you to do to get to those goals of yours. Now, to learn more, click the link below this podcast and apply to our VIP program right now.